We are not alive, but we might be.
Double dead!
Yeah.
Hey, that's the name of the book.
The book by one Charles D. Wendig of, oh god, not him again, fame.
Chuckles. So, way back when you guys did the cursed Chuck Wendig writing advice 7-hour edition, I think Henry may have mentioned that I had a copy of Double Dead. I started reading it around that time, and I put it down for like 2 years. And recently I was like, you know what? I don't think I gave Double Dead a fair shake. I'm gonna read Double Dead. Because I was just thinking, the idea of a genuinely monstrous vampire traveling across a zombie-fucked America, and that's actually genuinely quite an interesting concept for a book. So I was like, I'm gonna give this a fair shake. I'm gonna actually, read Double Dead. And then in classic me fashion, I thought, you know who needs to hear everything about the book Double Dead by Chuck Wendig? My good friend Gus, who I love to explain things to that he has not seen.
That's, you're talking about
Yes.
me in that.
That's Gus! Anyway, so Double Dead is Chuck Wendig's first book.
Oh boy, so this is like the OG, like original flavor Chuck Wendig at his most edgy, at his most performatively weird and quirky. That's fun. I love that. I can't wait for zombie narwhals and ninjas and dinosaurs with cyborg
Bacon
bits.
narwhal. Yeah, it is la awesome sauce, to be quite honest. So you might listen to the Chuck Wendig 7 hours of writing advice video and think, wow, this guy's kind of obnoxious. I wonder if he actually writes like that. He does. He does actually write like that. I have curated some screen caps of some of my favorite moments in the book. Favorite in big air quotes. This, you could absolutely do our previously established Chuck Wendig drinking game for this.
Oh,
for
no.
every weirdly sexual comment about an animal, disparaging views towards women, plexiglass, hobos. You wouldn't die the way you would reading The Kick-Ass Writer, but you would get a good buzz on. And you would be pretty hungover the next day if you played the Chuck Wendig drinking game with Double Dead. So, Double Dead by Chuck Wendig is I'm gonna go back to the first page of the book. Double Dead, adjective. Meat that comes from an animal that has died from disease does not pass necessary sanitary standards. I don't know if that's real or if Chuck made that up, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt because I don't know shit about the meat industry.
So that's the one rule, right? That the whole world is going to be built around the fact that this vampire character in this can't eat the zombies?
Yes. So the main character of this book is Coburn, who is a vampire. He has just awoken from torpor. And I'm going to be using a lot of Vampire the Masquerade specific terminology because Chuck has written, before he wrote novels, he wrote White Wolf game books. And you can really tell because a lot of the lore for how the vampires work in this book is lifted pretty much straight from the Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, wow.
rules.
I didn't know that. I have to go check on my Exalted book to see if he has a writing credit. At some...
I think he did one of the Changeling ones. It wasn't a Vampire the Masquerade book, but just knowing that he's familiar with the White Wolf lore puts a lot of the vampire stuff in this book into perspective. It's not as complicated as the White Wolf vampire lore, but there's a lot of things like the sun and starvation don't necessarily kill them, but it sends them into a state of suspended animation where they can only be brought back to life by blood. He's got a kind of voice in the back of his head that talks to him and tells him to do bad things, which is, kind of Dexter's Dark Passenger style, which is a feature of the Vampire the Masquerade character creation, is that you have the Beast, and the Beast is always talking to you in the back of your mind, trying to tell you to do bad things. But there are deviations. I think the only thing that can actually kill Coburn is not necessarily a stake to the heart, but definitely decapitation. And the zombie rules in this book are pretty standard. Zombies, they eat people, they're rotten, shambling corpses, they're not very smart, and the only way to kill them is with a headshot. So, with that in mind, we open in a destroyed movie theater somewhere in New York City, and there is blood dripping from the ceiling, and it drips onto Coburn, who has been in torpor for who knows how long, and the blood goes into his mouth, it wakes him up, and he's slowly turning back from being a rotten skeleton into being a living thing. And Chuck uses a lot of metaphors, specifically food-related metaphors, that make me feel insane. And here's the first one. The first one is on the very first page of the book. When the blood touched that blackened stub, it came alive with a sharp sound. The sound of a spoon back cracking the surface of creme brulee. So he's comparing the sounds of, like, creaking old, rotten vampire bones cracking back into place as Coburn comes back to life. And he is comparing that to the delicate sound of a spoon on the crusty bit on top of creme brulee.
That makes me think that, like, vampires are, like, especially fragile in the universe of Double Dead.
Yeah, it's a very fragile sound.
That's like someone doing like some kind of like fantasy action novel, and they're like, the punch hit with the force of a jello mold being thrown against the wall. Like, what are we doing?
The building collapsed like a souffle in the oven, you know? It's like, this is very delicate imagery for something that should be like gross and scary. And I know that I'm not saying that you can never mix tones and you can never juxtapose things like a disgusting thing and a nice thing.
The blade of the never-ending nightmare sliced through the vampire gods like a fart through the wind.
Which is such a Chuck Wendig thing. There are so many things. Chuck thinks he's very clever. And the thing that frustrates me the most, and you'll see this as the book goes on, the thing that frustrates me the most about Chuck Wendig as a writer is when he gets out of his own way, he's really good.
Yeah, but he so seldom does is the issue.
I have ADHD. My brain is very small. I generally don't finish books that I start reading, and when I do, it can take me up to like a month or 2 months or a year, depending on how dense the prose is.
I feel that strongly as a audio book boy who needs it to be an audiobook for me to like stay focused on it.
But with all of that said, considering it took me like 4 months to read War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which is about the same length as this book, because that's got quite dense Victorian prose. As much as it was a very interesting book, it had a hard time holding my attention. I finished Double Dead in 2 days. There's something here.
That is such a feat.
So anyway, Coburn, the vampire, he wakes up in this theater and climbs out of the rubble, and he finds, in the night, in New York City, a ruined street where there are zombies ripping up a dead deer and eating it. And at first he's like, hey, what's that guy's problem? Because he's been asleep. He doesn't know that zombies are real. And he tries to attack the zombie because the zombie starts like lurching towards him. And he bites the zombie on the neck and he realizes that there is no life in the blood. Dracula quote, "The blood is the life," which does come up in this book. But he has to eat blood from live people to sustain himself. And because the zombie is double dead, that's the title of the book, he can't do it.
Yeah, see, that is actually a really enthralling premise to, like, mix these two beings together. Because it gives you an automatic point of tension where, like, the vampire is in a world that is immediately hostile, where he may starve to death.
Yes. It's interesting because it's like, you're used to vampires being sort of very, very powerful in books. Like, a vampire is quite a powerful being. I mean, you think of like Nosferatu, Dracula, Lestat, they're all very powerful characters because a vampire is it's a predator that is evolved specifically for the human world. But when the human world collapses, they're at a huge disadvantage in a world where there's not humans running around for them to drink from. And also the fact, like, going through a zombie apocalypse when you can only travel at night, that's a really cool restriction to place on a character.
Does the book also touch on the fact that vampires typically use positions of power and aristocracy in other fictions to, like, get access to human victims?
Not really.
Or is that not played
Not really.
into?
Coburn is kind of the only vampire that you meet directly in the book. Vampires in this universe are very rare, and Coburn has amnesia from his human life. He doesn't remember anything about his human life. So
that's either a huge plot point or a convenient way to not worry about his backstory.
It's a little bit of both, my friend. It's a little bit of both.
Where was Coburn in 1940?
Oh, he was turned in the 50s.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because all he knows is that he's been dead for 50 years, and this book was written in 2006. So he was turned in the 50s. The next food metaphor that makes me insane is that the zombie's skin is described as looking like crispy chicken, and then it's like he crushed his heart like a pomegranate. It's like, Chuck, Were you just really hungry when you wrote this? Like, everything is like creme brulee and pomegranates and crispy fried chicken.
Chuck Wendig is a man of like many immediate desires. Like in the middle of everything, it's like I gotta get like a whiskey shot. I gotta nut. I gotta eat some food. It's like, dude, can you just like hunker down and write your shit, please?
So he's fighting all of these vampires, and crucially, when he wakes up, he's missing his middle finger on one of his hands. That's a plot point later.
Oh, of course it is. That's hilarious.
Yes, you'll find it out. Chuck Wendig. You'll find out why. But he takes the deer from the zombies. He drinks from its heart, but animal blood doesn't heal him the way that human blood does. He needs human blood to heal. So he goes out into the streets looking for humans. And there's zombies everywhere, and he has to fight all of them because they start chasing after him. And he gets into a fight with a group of zombies, and the main one, he smells human blood off in the distance, so he's trying to get away from the zombies towards the smell of human blood. But they start, like, attacking him, and one of them, who Chuck Wendig describes as the Hausfrau, which is such a weird...
So just one of the zombies.
Turn of phrase.
One of the zombies is just like an old lady, and she's
wearing like a pink bathrobe. She's wearing a pink bathrobe and hair curlers, I think.
Is this in America? This is in America, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's in California.
it's in New York
to start
City.
with. Oh, New York.
It's in New York City. It's
Okay.
in New York City in 2006.
So why is he using like a weird German phrase for like a woman who stays at home?
Coburn was turned in the 1950s. So if he was like a teenager in the 40s or the 30s, his age is unclear, but he's like, I imagine him being in his early 30s. But if he was like a teenager in the 30s or the 40s, you can imagine him using that kind of Borscht Belt German-American slang.
Well, sure, but I guess I'm just wondering, like, from a, like, meta perspective, why Chuck Wendig, in a horde of zombies, decided that there was, like, a boss battle here.
Well, it's because the Hausfrau becomes a recurring character, because she takes a big old chunk out of Coburn, and she starts going nuts, killing all of the other zombies. And that gives Coburn a chance to get away. He jumps off a building, but he fucks it on the landing and breaks both of his ankles. So then he has to commando crawl to the river, and the sun is coming up, and he's starting to sizzle, and he's like, oh damn, is this the end for Coburn? But then he slides down the embankment and lands into the Hudson River, and the water is murky enough to keep the sunlight from getting him.
Now, wait a minute. He's in flowing water right now?
Yeah, it's the crossing water rule doesn't apply to these vampires, I guess. And they can't turn into bats. They have reflections. There's Chuck Wendig's, it's like he's pulling from Vampire the Masquerade, and I don't know, Coburn's basically like a Bruja, I guess. He doesn't have any special powers. He's just the base level vampire.
I mean, that's the thing. It's,
but
it's
he's
all
like really strong and fast.
It's all like mix and match, plug and play with like these vampire fiction things. But if you're doing like a vampire versus zombies story and like really putting a lens on the trope, you would think that at least the classic weakness would be like addressed. Like, oh no, that's just a myth. That's why I can do this.
Yeah, well, it is later when he's talking to some of the human characters that show up.
Oh, cool.
So,
Chuck
and
remembered.
then here's another one. I'm skimming through the book. I've reached another Chuck Wendig, please get a snack before you write. Their heads popped off with the sound of someone breaking a hard loaf of bread.
Oh my god. What
Chuck
is
was so
this?
hungry when he wrote these first few chapters.
The zombies marched into the building like a hoagie marches into my mouth. Love my sandwiches.
So, whenever Coburn is like sleeping, he has these dreams about a dark figure and a dead little girl and a TV playing an old talk show. And they get more detailed as the book goes on, and that's him remembering his human life. He starts to remember his human life over the course of this book.
I see.
And those are sort of like every time he like sleeps during the day, that's kind of the transition into the next day, is that he has another special dream.
Is that his character arc? Him, like, reclaiming and remembering his humanity in this world of zombies?
A little bit, yeah. But also, like, Coburn starts this book off as, like, a real son of a bitch. Like every vampire writer writing a vampire book post-2005, Chuck Wendig wants us to know that he is not sexy and sensitive like Edward Cullen. He is so evil. He is a bit like the Joker. Just like Giganotosaurus, he is a bit like the Joker.
See, I always thought that was kind of weird that, like, there was this trend towards, oh, well, we're not going to make the vampire the villain, but we're also going to make them, like, a huge bastard as the protagonist.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing with, like, Edward Cullen, who is in some ways kind of also a huge bastard, but, like, there were mitigating factors to, like, why in text he was, like, you know, a sensitive love interest character. Like, I just feel like there's something odd to be like, if the character is already, like, murdering and killing people to survive, maybe you want to offset that with some positive traits somewhere in his being.
And if you will allow me to plug something for a second, this is kind of the arc that we went through with Faustina Fetamine in famous audio drama KILLJAM
Oh,
XXX.
KILLJAM Triple X!
You know, in earlier drafts, Faustina was way more of a bitch. But then we had this realization that it's like, you can't have a character who kills people for money and is also a bitch.
Yeah, you really have to pick one because, you know, it allows people to enjoy the dualistic contradiction of the character who gets to indulge in taboo in one way, but also can, you know, feel like someone you might want to hang out with, like a friend in another way. And those things can be swapped. Like somebody could be like more of a kind of a bad person, but have like morals around harming others. It just depends on the story. And I guess, where does that come down with Coburn in this one?
Well, Coburn is kind of, well, I was going to say that this is very much the Deadpool era of, like, anti-heroes who are, like, snarky and,
okay,
like,
yeah.
Coburn's a bit of a Deadpool. Like, he doesn't talk to the audience, but he's got, like, his inner monologue is in Chuck Wendig's narrative voice, so he comes off as Deadpool-like.
Oh, this is rich because I can already feel the, like, he loves to murder, and he's a bad person, but at least he's funny, parentheses, written by Chuck Wendig.
For the most part, Coburn doesn't cross, even though he's, like, nominally, he's, like, a bastard and he's monstrous. He does come off as, like, he has very likable moments, and most of the people that he kills in some way or another, whether he's aware of it or not, deserve it. Such as, he follows the scent of blood down the river. When he wakes up from his sleep, and he starts swimming down the river, and he follows the scent of blood coming from a boat, where there is a man named Carl, who is skinning a cat to eat it.
I guess he really liked that expression for getting something done.
Yeah, well, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and Carl would know, because before the zombie apocalypse, he was a taxidermist. And I made a note, Chuck hates guys with weird jobs. Obviously, taxidermist equals eats cats equals eats people, because it's implied that Carl's also a cannibal.
Oh, yeah, let's hate weird jobs. There's nothing weird about being a writer. Nothing at all.
This is where we will encounter the first, like, Chuck, I hope you're not like this still, which is the kind of pervasive stink of fat phobia in this book.
Yeah.
Because Chuck, I can tell that Chuck believes that in an apocalypse scenario, the only way that you could be fat is A, if you're hoarding resources at the expense of other people, and B, if you're a cannibal. So Chuck doesn't understand that there are people out there who just have slow metabolisms.
Okay, you know what's also dumb as fuck about that stance, in addition to all of it, is that in works of fiction, even the ones that, like, lampshade this, you typically don't see a huge amount of fat zombies. You kind of just see zombies of the, like, expected body type of somebody, like, who doesn't think about this stuff. Yeah, so it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, huh, wow, you didn't think about that at all, did you? Like,
humans having, like, variations in metabolism speed is part of the reason why we have been so successful as a species evolutionarily, because people with fast metabolisms can run faster and are better hunters, but people with slow metabolisms survive famine periods because their body holds on to energy more efficiently. So there would be fat people. There would be fat people in the apocalypse because there have been apocalypse-like situations in Earth's history, and there were probably fat people. You know, there were probably fat people during the Ice Age. There were probably... The Venus of Willendorf is proof of that.
Well, the Venus of Willendorf, she was like, you know, a fertile goddess, but I think I think what this comes down to is just, like, there would be different ways that people would survive.
Yes, exactly. And also, you find out later that the zombie apocalypse has only been going on for 2 years. Please hold that in your mind, because there are some absolute absolutely insane developments that you'll be like, and that was only 2 years? And that only took you 2 years? So, yeah, the pervasive fat phobia appears because Carl, the cat skinner, he's got a big belly because he eats dogs. He's got so much dog meat that he's a fat man. And Chuck wants us to know that that is a moral failing.
That's so... Don't eat dog, kids, or you'll get fat. No, it's maybe don't eat dog because it's a like taboo based on their role in our society. It has no correlation.
Also because carnivorous animals are more likely to have parasites, which is why, outside of famine situations, people generally don't eat dogs.
Damn, okay, fair enough. But also, it's one of those things
Anyway.
where it's like, I hope that this has some kind of like, oh man, he's a big guy with a lot of blood. I can't wait to sumptuously devour all of that big blood.
Pretty much.
Oh, fun.
Because he's also, while he's got his like cat skinning operation, and there's like a scrinkly little terrier dog in a cage whining, and Carl is like, you'll be next, scrinkly little dog.
I love killing and eating animals.
Yeah, basically, he literally is like, he has, in his internal monologue, he's like, Carl hated animals. He'd always hated animals. That's why he was a taxidermist.
Oh, Carl waking up every morning and be like, oh, I love being fat and evil.
Yeah, pretty much. I love killing and eating dogs. Can't wait to eat some dogs and kill them. So he gets a pull on his fishing line. He's like, ooh, big fish. But it's not a fish. It's Coburn. And Coburn launches himself out of the water and bites Carl on the neck and drinks his delicious fat
That's
man
so
blood.
stupid.
And that allows him to heal. So his legs were broken and his finger grows back. His legs heal and his finger grows back. And there was a really funny bit where it was something like, it's third person narration, but it kind of switches perspectives within that. So it'll be, there's a moment that I found very amusing where it's like Coburn bit Carl on the neck. He did not know that this man was named Carl. You know, like...
Yeah, fair enough.
It was like a kind of like, reader, this is for your convenience. We know that he's named Carl. Coburn did not know that. And I just think that's very amusing to me. And so then he lets the dog go, and he decides that the dog's gonna be his sidekick, because he's like, all right, fine, if I run out of food, I can eat the dog. And he names the dog Cream Puff, and the dog then accompanies him on his journey looking for humans.
Oh, okay, so we got liberate the dog, so he's a good guy because he did that. So Coburn's got some morals.
Like I said, most of the people he kills, even though he's kind of like, he's edgy, but you can tell that he's got a good heart somewhere, even though he'll be like, no, I don't have a heart because I'm a vampire and I kill people.
That's my favorite kind of anti-hero, the informed amoral guy, where it's just like, he doesn't actually do that many amoral things, but he just insists that he's so bad.
Yeah. And sometimes that gets really frustrating when it's like Chuck seems to contradict himself, which is another thing that we know Chuck loves to do.
Oh, that's the classic Chuck Wendig move. Actually, that isn't the classic Chuck Wendig move. He never does that. Well, he always does that.
He always does it, but he never does it.
Never.
Chapter 6 of this book is called Chuck Wagon, and I wrote in my notes, Chapter 6, Chuck Wagon. That's the name of the author.
Yeah, his name was always Chuck Wagon.
Look at that Chuck Wagon tsunami rolling in.
Another, like, beautiful Chuckism that's, like, you can just taste. 2006, an excellent vintage. Chill the fuck out, pup. Last thing I need is for you to call a gaggle of undead assholes my way. Is it a gaggle? What is it? It's a school of fish, a murder of crows, a parliament of owls. So what's a bunch of fucking zombies? A cluster? A cadre? You know what? I'm gonna go with fuck bucket.
Oh, don't go with that, please.
This zombie apocalypse is turning into a real cromulent fuck bucket. Coburn needy drinky.
How many times past that dumb joke does he say a fuck bucket of zombies?
Never.
Great! I love that! That's so awesome! Really worth that!
Like I said, Chuck Wendig loves to contradict himself. And the first big moment of contradiction happens here. After a paragraph that I actually really like and found very, like, charming and got a sensible chuckle out of me, which was, it wasn't like he killed every victim. Most of them he let go on their merry way. If only because disposing of bodies was an arduous task. Dumpster? River? Acid bath? Who had the time? Far better to drink a little than send them on their way drunk and confused and without the memory of what they had done or what had been done to them. Of course, sometimes they tasted so good. At which point, well, dumpster, river, acid bath. I found that got a sensible chuckle out of me. I liked that. See what I mean?
That's fair.
Every once in a while, Chuck gets out of his own way, and he doesn't like when he's not dressing things up in just these weird metaphors and like inserting pointless swearing. He can be a good writer.
I think overall it benefits the fact that this is narrative that he has to like actually invest himself in, and not just like a series of like bits that he's doing with ostensibly there being advice mixed in. Like he has to stay on topic to some extent with this.
There's a sequel to this book, so who knows?
What's it called? Triple Dead?
It's called Bad Blood.
Because now we got
Just
Bad
like the
Blood.
Taylor Swift song.
Yeah,
Bad
exactly.
Blood. Me at Chuck Wendig.
Fun.
Anyway, so then we have a classic, only a mule-kicked blind dude could suspect that the world hadn't pretty much shit the bed. Classic Chuck.
I love animal-based violence happening to vulnerable people. It's really classy.
Yeah, he uses the phrase mule-kicked a lot. That must be like deep, like rural Pennsylvania slang.
Oh, I don't think we encountered that, but I'm not surprised. The thing is, it was either mule kicked or meth cranked that was gonna show up in
Meth
this.
cranked shows up. Meth cranked shows up a few times.
Let's go! Everyone take a drink.
Yeah. So then here's a classic Chuck contradiction moment. He says, the buffet had closed. The endless line of willing and drunken and drugged up victims was done funneling their life source into his open and eager mouth. No more gravy train. No more Chuck wagon. And then he's like, oh, well, that's fine because my big city living got me too complacent. I've just got to learn how to hunt again. I've got to get used to being a proper hunter. And I can do that. I can totally do that because I'm Cobra and I'm the coolest guy in the world. So it's like, no gravy train. This is fine, actually. And then later on the next page, he's tracking the humans. He smells like exhaust from a vehicle. And he's like, oh, humans driving up that way. And it says, maybe the gravy train wasn't dried up just yet. So it's like, I don't need the gravy train. Actually, I do need the gravy train.
It's all about the gravy train, in fact.
I love the gravy train.
What a weird cul-de-sac. That's like another like Chuck Wendig, like, and then from that point on, he never was the same again. Chapter next. I feel the same as I was before.
Yeah, it's very R.L. Stine of just like, and we died. Next chapter. Jokes, no we didn't.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
So then we cut back to the Hausfrau, who is undergoing a strange transformation. And of course, because Chuck Wendig is not normal about fat people, we have to get in a thing about like how she chewed up the other zombies and she has a big belly because fatness is a moral failing.
Yeah, damn.
Again.
I was gonna say this is like really leaning into the whole like fat evil, where it's like, oh, so coincidentally, all the evil characters are also all the fat characters.
There are a few evil, like later on, there are a few evil characters where their bodies are not described, so we assume that they are what Chuck Wendig assumes is normal.
Yeah, but like, are there any good people in Chuck Wendig's universe who are fat
There's
people?
one.
Oh, cool. Are they described as Rubenesque?
No. I would expect. I'm surprised he never used the word Zatfig because that's such a Chuck word to me.
What? I've never even heard of this.
Oh, Zatfig is like it's similar to Rubenesque. It's for like a thick woman. It's like I think it's Yiddish.
Oh, okay.
So it's in the same
yeah.
camp as Hausfrau.
It would be just like a fucking Ernest Klein, his parallel dimension clone.
Yeah, pretty much. So she's going through a strange transformation. She's mutating.
She's becoming a recurring antagonist.
Yeah, as a result of eating Coburn's meat and drinking his blood, she is mutating into a horrible creature with like big fangs and like a long tongue and long limbs. And I'm basically picturing the liquor from Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say
something like a slightly more like a more evolved zombie enemy. Yeah, she's going full Resident Evil, and so she's on the hunt. She is going to get Coburn. You
know what? Wait a minute. I actually that connection we just made kind of sold me on this as a concept. The idea that this is also a like Resident Evil style zombie apocalypse, but the catalyst for the transformation is zombies eating parts of vampires. I doubt it will be explored in greater depth than that, but like, you know what? Again, that's using the premise in a novel way.
And I mean, he does do some very interesting stuff with the link between vampires and zombies later on in the book that I don't want to spoil. So Coburn and Cream Puff the dog are walking along the big highway in America. They are going to find the vehicle with the humans in it. And Coburn like will get into the boot of like a car to wait out the sun coming up every day. So they're traveling only at night. One of the first moments where I was like, I do like Coburn.
Coburn, you old dog, you won me over.
There are moments where it is very Coburn, you old dog, you won me over, but then it'll flip back and I'm like, oh, I hate this guy actually. But it's just because Chuck Wendig loves to contradict himself. I get the vibe that he's like forgotten what happened in the earlier chapter and just kept going because the contradictions are so stark and he'll like repeat himself.
This is why you write sober, people. This is so you can
exactly.
remember.
It's like he's giving the advice of write drunk, edit over caffeinated or whatever, and it's like, Chuck, I can't be too mean to him because this was his first novel, but like, Chuck, come on.
Write on meth, edit on speed.
This get a meth cranked baboon to edit your book.
Get 28 meth crank baboons in one room and they'll write your novel for you. That's just the low-tech version of like generative AI.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's, you know, it's the eco-friendly version of generative AI that doesn't use several Great Lakes worth of water.
All you apes and ape enthusiasts, replace all the generative AI with chimpanzees and baboons in a room. Do it. It's the next big thing. That's the future, you fucking Luddites. Anyway.
Yeah, get with the times. It's all about macaques with typewriters.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, all right.
And he's rockin' Randy Macaque.
He's coming out.
Only on KILLJAM XXX. So Coburn sends his dog off into the long grass, and the dog comes back with a frog. Because he doesn't have anything to feed the dog, so he's just like, go hunt. And the dog kills a frog and eats it. And there's a moment where he's watching the dog eating the frog, and he thinks to himself, man, what if I licked the blood off the dog's face right now? Like, and then he's like, no, save your dignity, Coburn. You can't do that. You need a drink right now. You're going crazy. And that made me, that was very amusing.
No, that's gay. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I'm also just thinking, like, it would be really funny if, like, for some reason the dog eats the frog and he's like, everything reminds me of her.
I should call her.
I should call her.
Who's her? You'll find out. Anyway.
You'll find out in chapter Forget About It.
And he's like, at various points, he's like, I should just eat the dog. But then he's like, no, the dog's too little. The dog's too scrawny. He's not going to sustain
Come on,
me.
Coburn. Don't forget about the gravy train. That's your goal. That's your everything.
And there's some moments where Coburn is very like dad when the family has gotten a new puppy that he did not particularly want, where he's just like, what are you looking at me for, dog? What do you go do something useful? You know,
that's
it's like
endearing.
Very, and you're
that's
like, oh, he's gonna love
endearing.
the dog. He's gonna love the dog in a couple chapters, and I like that.
Yeah.
So he's walking into Pennsylvania, and he realizes when he wakes up, gets out of the car boot that he's been sleeping in during the day, and he smells the exhaust of the car that he's been following, and it's gotten closer. So he's like, oh, they turned around. That means they're closer than they were yesterday. Hallelujah for me. Coburn and the dog go to a caravan park where they find a caravan with, like, you know, lights on inside. There's people living in the caravan.
Sorry, this is just gonna be my dumb American terminology. Just, you mean like it's like a trailer, right? In a trailer park?
But like specifically like a campground. When I say caravan park, I mean like a campground where you park your RV.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely, I know.
And I
know
think
those.
of a trailer park
Yeah.
as being permanent.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like, they've got the cinder blocks and they're not going anywhere. But yeah, okay. So you mean, like, it's like a big campground and people drive in and they stay there.
It's like a holiday park.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Just wanted to clarify for the other dumb Americans in the audience, like myself.
Yes. He goes up to the campsite, and this is the first time of many where Chuck describes the moon as pregnant.
Fucking why, dude?
Why'd you do that? Anyway, he can smell that there's a group of people. He can smell lots of different scents, lots of different body odors, lots of different brands of soap. And he sees a fat man coming out from the campsite to go take a piss.
Is he an evil fat man?
This is the one nice fat man in the book. But it is very, like, he hefted fatly, you know? Like,
yeah. He's like, oh, I love pissing and being fat. Oh.
Yeah, and there's a part, and here we go, he's saying it outright, and I can't be too mean about Chuck for this, because it is this is Coburn thinking this, but also, like, the text, the subtext implies that Chuck also believes this. Here it was, the end of the world, the gates of hell ripped open, and all of its rotting souls came tumbling out, and this shitheel somehow managed to remain morbidly obese.
Come on, Chuck. Is it even winter? Like, and it's been 2 years too.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. 2 years is not enough time to lose like 100 kilos. But anyway, this guy ends up being part of the main traveling party that we will stay with. And this is, I haven't brought it up because it hasn't come up in a big way, but like when Coburn bites the fat man, and then the fat man is like screaming for help, and the other members of the party come out, including an old guy with a shotgun, a teenage girl, a middle-aged black woman, and a young adult woman, like in her 20s, who is shock of shocks, wearing makeup.
Oh, well, how can you get makeup in Apocalypse? If end of world, how come wear lipstick? How come dark eyeliner? If world dead? If zombie, how come rouge?
If zombie, how come personal hygiene? Whore.
If women, why exist?
Yeah. So this is that kind of like snooky, like a woman who could touch you, Chuck, showing up for the first time, because
goodness,
the narrative is very mean to this woman, Cecilia. And then there's a teenage girl who is like waifish and smoking a cigarette, and everybody is freaking out because a vampire is biting their pal.
Hey, that's our fat man. Go find your own.
Yeah, the old guy tries to shoot him, and Coburn is like, this is another, Chuck is contradicting himself, because Coburn would yank on the rifle and collapse the man's trachea, turning it into a gurgling paste. Then he would fill his coffers with many pennies. And he's basically like, I'm gonna eat all of these people right now. And a minute ago, he was like, I'm not going to eat this dog because what if I don't find any other food? It's like, these are the first humans you've seen. You have to ration that shit. That's your only food source. You can't eat canned beans like the rest of us. That's your only food source.
He just got some of that like high octane fat blood, and now he's wilding out.
Yeah, now he's like, well, I guess it is kind of that he kind of goes into like a shark feeding frenzy, I guess. But it is really annoying that he'll be like, I need to be careful and not drink all the blood. I need to drink all the blood. No, I don't. Yes, I do.
Yeah, exactly. It's the beast.
And it's
the beast is speaking to him, and thy beast is named Chuck Wendig.
Yes. So nothing personnel kids behind the old man, and the old man's name is Gil, and he nothing personnel kids behind the old man and like holds the gun up to his neck to choke him. And then Kayla, who is Gil's daughter, is like, everybody calm down. We gotta figure out what's going on here. Fat man is still alive. He's bleeding, but he's dying, but he's getting better.
But he's like, oh, good thing I have all this extra blood because I'm a fat man.
And Coburn is making all of these cracks about like how makeup lady fucked that old man. You know, like, oh, I know she's not your mom because you're almost the same age. You know, like cracks what like that. Like
what are we doing here, Coburn?
Like gold digging. He's so mean to Cecilia, which is makeup lady's name.
He's just like writing fanfic about these people that he like has at his mercy for no reason.
Yeah. Here's another moment where like literally 2 paragraphs on the same page that are like the exact same paragraph. Does this book have an editor? Anyway, what are you? She asked. Doesn't matter. Are you dead? Do I look dead? She took another step closer. Dead isn't the same as it used to be. Fair enough. Even still, I don't smell like spoiled meat. Maggots aren't using me like a condo complex, and all my organs still inside my body. I know what you are, she said. I doubt that. You're dead. Am I? But not like them. Not like the others. He chuckled. I don't smell like dead goat that's been bloated in the sun.
Oh my God.
Don't attract flies either. And all my parts are still inside my body. So that's a plus. That is the same exact conversation twice in a row. I feel crazy.
And then she goes, but you're not like those other ones. I know what you could be. And he says, but do you? I don't list a bunch more things. Like, what do we... Yeah, come on.
But it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff, but different wording. He's like, okay, yeah, we get it. There's no flies buzzing around you, and you don't smell rotten, and you have all your organs. And he says those exact same three things twice in the same conversation with slightly different wording.
Yeah, that's so weird. Wow.
Geo
Anyway,
agrees.
do these people matter? Are they like
Yeah, they do. These are the
Okay.
party. This is the party. Kayla strikes up a deal with him that if he protects them from the zombies, they will give him blood. Either by offering it up themselves, like a non-fatal amount, or by leading them to other people that he can feed on. And he, for some reason, he really needs to be convinced of this, even though earlier in the book, he was like, and he didn't kill everybody that he fed from because that would be stupid. But now he's like, I'm gonna kill all of you. Fuck you. I'm gonna kill all of you.
Oh my god. Did the author remember you had to be an asshole?
Yeah, and Kayla is like, that would be dumb if you did that, because then what if you don't find any other humans? Because you're a city boy, you can't drive. So what are you gonna do when the sun comes up and you're walking and you're stuck out in the sun? If there's no human, we can't protect you and you can't protect us. And what if we're the last people in the world?
Damn, he's getting owned with facts and logic by this teenage girl.
And then he, like, for no reason, like, picks Kayla up by the neck and, like, threatens to choke her. But then he's like, okay, I will join the party.
What a
why'd you
cool,
do that, bud?
Weird scene. What a strange thing to...
Yeah.
That's gonna look sick in the adaptation. That will never happen anyway.
And the thing is, he can smell a sickness on Kayla. Kayla's blood is different and special. And she's sick. And she's dying. But she's getting better. I'm gonna say that a lot in this video.
Oh, wow. Is that something that, like, happens a lot in the book?
Yeah, there's a lot of parts where, like, people almost die and then they come back. So I kept thinking of Bob Odenkirk being, she's dying, but she's getting better. And he says, I don't like people. I'm a monster. I like people when they're tasty treats.
You motherfuckers are nothing but delicious chicken tenders to me. I'll dip you in Szechuan, you fools. Hee hee hee, I'm so evil and wicked.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about this is that he's having all of these conversations, and then Chuck will remind us that he's just, like, carrying this little dog under his arm.
Yes! What a fucking loser.
So, like, those are other moments where I'm like, I kind of love Coburn, because he's, like, trying so hard. Like, if you take it as, if you interpret not as Chuck Wendig thinks this is cool, but as Coburn thinks he's really cool, but he isn't, then he's great.
Yeah, there is something to it. There is something to that where it's like he's like a vampire jerk, but he's like taken in by like puppy dog eyes, and also like I guess he starts to care about these people for reasons I guess we'll get into.
We get a more deep like introduction to all of the party members. So you've got Gil, who is kind of the leader. He's this grizzled old guy in his 50s, short and stocky, salt and pepper beard. I was kind of just picturing Eisen.
Yeah. Oh,
from
yeah.
the Kingmaker
Okay.
histories.
Yeah.
Because every time there's like an old, like a tough older guy with like a white streak in his hair, I'm like, that's Eisen to me.
AU Eisen, who doesn't have his powers because it's a zombie apocalypse AU.
Well, he does like fix stuff at different points. He is a little bit handy.
Okay, yeah. So it's like equalization.
Yeah, so then there's Kayla, she has cancer.
Ba.
And she got her cancer diagnosis not too long before the zombie shit happened. And she has miraculously survived way longer than anybody thought she would. The other party members are Cecilia, who is some slut that Gil picked up at the club.
Nice.
No, she just joined the party and like, she is dating Gil. Like, she did fuck that old man.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's a moral failing, because what's scarier than a woman who could touch you?
So I'm guessing she's there and like the fat guy is there because there needs to be fat jokes and there needs to be like women jokes.
Yes. And then fat guy is Abner.
What this already is like I know this was like years before, but like if you just took Gil and Kayla and Coburn, you have The Last of Us with Shadow the Hedgehog in the party.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So they're trying to get to California because they hear that there's like a lab in California and that there's like a settlement of humans where the zombies can't get in.
Like every zombie apocalypse story, we gotta go to where the big settlement is, where the humans are, and nothing bad will happen when we get there.
And yeah, the other members of the party are Abner, who people call Ebby for short because it's like a childhood nickname, who is like he's fat and he's an IT consultant.
Abner, more like Flabner. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, for real. That's such a, like, fat man name.
Yeah, Abner. Exactly.
Abner. It's such a name that a hack writer would give a fat man. And then the last member of the group is Lily, who is their medic. She was a vet before, so that means she's the closest thing to a doctor that they have on the team. And, you know, she patches them up, sets their bones, gives them antibiotics and stuff, and she's been monitoring Kayla's cancer. Through this. The chapter 9 opens up with Kayla peeing in a cup because
why?
Lily has to, like, look at her. Well, to see how healthy it is. Because I don't know, Lily can identify cancer in piss on sight, I guess.
I will say that, like, this Lily character does feel like it's at least connected to the other human characters. Like it's good to have a medic, and like this makes sense as a role in zombie fiction.
Yeah, the team always needs a medic. You always need a healer. You always need a cleric in your party. So,
wow, it really makes me wonder which order they're going to die. Certainly not the least necessary to the most necessary. Couldn't be that.
You'll see. Lily is also the only black character in this book, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Thankfully, Chuck is pretty normal about her, but I do notice that she gets the least... She gets very few paragraphs from her POV, which suggests to me that Chuck maybe wasn't super comfortable writing from the POV of a black person.
Yeah, which is weird considering all the AAAV slang he uses at random moments in his writing advice. But yeah, I appreciate at least that he's not like going for racist humor in the way that he kind of tastelessly goes for other stuff.
Chuck Wendig he's pretty elitist, but I don't think he's racist.
I think he'll sometimes use maybe the wrong word to describe certain things, like that one like ant writing tip. What was that about? But on the whole, he doesn't, I think, take any joy in doing racist jokes, so he doesn't do them, because if he did have joy in it, he would show no restraint in that regard, as he does with all other things. So the party is together, and they're going to California.
The party is together. Coburn is not with them during the day, because right now he doesn't trust them not to kill him in his sleep. So he's fucked off to like a cave or somewhere to sleep during the day, and he's gonna rejoin them at night and travel with them.
So what, he just fast travels to them every day? Like, it feels like this, I don't know.
He can run really speedy.
That's fair, but like, how does he always know where they are?
One of Chuck Wendig's problems, one of his other problems, all of his characters kind of talk the same.
That's not that surprising.
They all kind of talk in that like snarky, quippy way. And it's especially jarring when it comes to Kayla. And I kept picturing Kayla as like Jenna Ortega, because Jenna Ortega plays this character in half of the movies she's in. The precocious teenage girl who talks like a 50-year-old movie producer. So there's a bit where she's telling Coburn, Kayla is catching Coburn up on like how the zombie apocalypse started, and she says something like, an oil drill dug up a long dormant bugaboo from the bottom of the ocean. Drill, baby, drill. She's 15.
Who would, like, that's the kind of thing that if you said that as a teenager, every other teenager would beat you up. Like,
yeah, every other teenager would make fun of you for talking like this.
Two British boys would manifest out of nowhere and go, "Oi, gov, look at this lamer."
Two boys would manifest out of nowhere and call you slurs. There's another bit where she's like, God or Buddha or John Travolta or whoever is looking after me. And it's like, why John Travolta? You're 15 in 2006.
That's so random and weird. I guess that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, when I was a teenager, I loved watching Grease, but, like, I did not consider John Travolta to be... Oh, wait, it's a Scientology joke. I just clocked that.
All right. You know what? But why would a 15-year-old be making that Scientology joke?
But it's like, and also, like, why John Travolta? Why not Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise is the one that everybody thinks of as the face of Scientology.
Yeah, just a weird bit, Chuck. Just a strange, odd bit.
Weird bit. So Kayla and Cecilia, like, makes Kayla very mad. They hate each other. Cecilia is kind of like the evil stepmother character, almost.
She's
naturally.
Always, like,
like trying to rile Kayla up by being like, I sucked your dad's dick, you know, like.
Oh yeah, you got to get all those misogynistic stereotypes in there. You gotta meld them together. You mush them up.
Kayla and Cecilia have a huge fight where Kayla is like, fuck you, you're not my real mom. And she storms out of the caravan and slams the door behind her and it breaks, which is bad because that door is what keeps the zombies out.
Right.
And Kayla feels so bad about what she's done that she runs off into the woods and no one can find her. But then she runs into a zombie and the zombie bites her. But then Coburn shows up and he beats the shit out of the zombie. They literally have a like Twilight style hold on spider monkey moment where he's like, jump on my back, I'll carry you back, but keep your arms and legs close to me if you want to live, because I'm gonna run so fast that the trees are gonna like blow your limbs off.
Yeah.
And it's literally that scene in Twilight, the spider monkey thing. And then when they get back to the camp, like there's a bunch of zombies that have been attracted by like the commotion and they're following Coburn and Kayla back to the camp. And then they hear an unearthly howl on the wind, and who comes barreling down the highway towards the
It's
RV
the Hausfrau!
She's
off the
back,
top
baby.
rope!
Hausfrau off the top rope with a steel chair. So Kayla's been bitten. Coburn is like, holy fucking shit, we need to go. And they all pack into the RV, like Gil kind of haphazardly like duct tapes the door closed and they speed off. And this is how we find out what Abner's role in the team is. He's the driver. So if you would allow me another plug, if you would like to listen to a show where there's a fat guy who does sick driving stunts in a van, but the text doesn't constantly feel the need to remind you how fat he is, listen to the Kingmaker Histories, because I sound design a lot of cool car chases for that show.
Yes. And you know what? We got a big man driving a truck. We got a handyman who's like a silver fox, and we've got Colette. She's there too. That's so mean.
A woman who could touch you. She's also here. So Kayla is getting sick, and there's like, you know, they describe the classic zombie bite thing of like the black veins coming out from the bite mark, but then they go back and the veins start to heal up and the bite starts to heal up. And this is how we find out that Kayla, her blood is the cure for zombie.
It is The Last of Us!
It's literally The Last of Us.
It's just The Last of Us. Wow.
It was The Last of Us before The Last of Us.
It was the first of them.
This was the first of them.
Yeah.
It was literally the first of them.
The first of The Last of Us. I'm losing my mind.
But as they're driving away, Hausfrau jumps onto the top of the caravan and is trying to rip the top off and get to them. So Coburn goes up onto the roof to fight her and kick her off.
Nice.
And I think this was the first. In my notes, it says Coburn wears Fluvogs, 3 exclamation points. That just tickled me because I have a pair of Fluvogs that I wear quite a bit. They're probably not as nice as his because I got the cheap ones.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're slippers, but he's got the boots, the cool ones. And so then we find out, this is how we find out that Coburn, so Kayla's immune to zombies. Her blood can stop the zombie infection in somebody who's been bitten recently, and they need to get her to California to a lab, and they have the address of the lab already, and they know where they're going. And they heard about the lab from this group called the Sons of Man.
It sounds like they really like gave up when they were making their own name.
And Chuck Wendig is always like, and they were so stupid and their names suck because they're religious.
Oh, okay. So I played right into Chuck's hand on that one.
Yeah, now we're getting into the making fun of rednecks.
All the zombies are risen up and doing bad things, and you think the Sky Daddy can save you? Hee, you fucking fools. I'll eat you for breakfast.
I don't know what Chuck Wendig's beliefs are, but he gives me enlightened atheist vibes. The Sons of Man are this, like, militia who fight monsters, and they were the ones who chopped off Coburn's middle finger and buried him under the movie theater.
Oh wow, so you gotta get revenge for your middle finger for that very important plot point. That's so funny.
Their leader is a guy called Benjamin Brickett, and he's like Coburn's arch nemesis.
Did Henry name this character because of his love for alliterative names?
The Sons of Man have started a settlement in the Midwest, and they're trying to rebuild society, and Coburn is like, fuck that, I'm not driving through Sons of Man territory. And Coburn also, he kind of thinks that, like, the settlement out west is a crock of shit. And they show him the map, and they're like, okay, well, to get out west, you've got to go through Cannibal Nation.
Oh, cool. I can't wait.
I want you to remember that the apocalypse only happened 2 years ago.
And yet,
enough people
in
2 years. It's funny reading this after COVID because it's like, yes, COVID was nowhere near as destructive in the immediate sense as a zombie apocalypse was. It was very destructive, but not in the, like, in the moment sense. Like, we were all panic buying, we all ran out of toilet paper, but, you know, society didn't fully collapse.
Yeah, like, we didn't start forming, like, Mad Max Sons of Man gangs and also form cannibal nations.
I mean, I don't think I would have turned to cannibalism until at least year 5.
Yeah, like, the thing is, I would only really be compelled to cannibalism if there was literally nothing else to eat, you know? Just to be considerate.
So that is just the funniest thing to me. It's like that not only did enough people, in 2 years, enough people decided that cannibalism was a viable option, but they also organized. When they go through Cannibal Nation, it's an incredibly organized system, and they've got this whole thing going on. And it's like they've set up traps, they've dug a moat. 2 years!
Did the world run out of beans already?
I guess.
Or were there not enough cans of beans that you had to make the lottery style fucking omelos of eating people?
They have to go through Cannibal Nation, and obviously nobody gets through Cannibal Nation because
why would someone become a citizen of Cannibal Nation and like be like, yeah, I'd be happy to be part of the possibility of me getting eaten? Like, it's basically just being in the zombie world.
The they don't eat the other citizens of Cannibal Nation. They eat the people that come through trying to get past Cannibal Nation.
If you have that,
so they've got like road spikes and snipers, and it's like I said, it's very organized, and I find it hard to believe.
Fucking plant seeds and farm something, you losers. It's not like the zombies have like stripped away, and this is middle America. There were already farms.
We're in rural Pennsylvania at the moment.
Oh, we got a long way to go.
Fuck, there's fucking, like, we're in the area that Chuck describes many times in his, like, personal writing about himself and his life. He describes the region that he's from as Pennsatucky, as in the bit between Pittsburgh and Philly, which is very conservative and rural and Appalachian.
I think Chuck just, like, imagined the end of the world as, like, the zombies showed up and then so many things set on fire that we lost all of the infrastructure for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, it's very Scar takes over Pride Rock, and the world sets on fire!
And the river dries up, yeah. So, I breezed past the fact that Coburn is now seeing Kayla in his dreams, and they talk to each other in their dreams, but it's like, it's actually Kayla. So, like, he wakes up, and Kayla is like, hey, think about what we talked about in your dream, and he was like, fucking get out of my head, that's creepy. So, they have a psychic link. It's not really explained why.
Oh, it's because she's the life and he's the death, and it's like a fucking
pretty much.
If you read the Book of Elsewhere,
like
it makes sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they make this plan to go through Cannibal Nation, and Coburn is like, he thinks that the settlement out west is a lie that the cannibals made up to make sure that people would consistently be going down the road that leads through Cannibal Nation.
This is so fucking involved.
He has another classic Coburn flip-flop where he's like, actually, fuck the adventuring party. I'm gonna go live in Cannibal Nation, and I'm gonna eat all the cannibals.
He could, though. What's stopping him from doing that?
That is a viable plan.
Does he consider the fact that it's like, oh, well, if we cure zombies, then I can just eat anybody again? Is that what he's thinking?
Yeah, that's what he's thinking. He's thinking if they cure the zombie plague, then humans will, the human numbers will go back up, and I'll have a ready food.
He can go back into hiding and be a guy who can feed things again. That makes sense.
Smart. They go to Cannibal Nation, and they're driving through a, like, sort of suburban hell town where it's like pawn shop, nail salon, bail bondsman, big Walmart. And the big Walmart is the center of operations for the cannibals. Get it? Because consumerism.
Oh, wow. It's like a metaphor for Chuck Wendig being a hack.
A very self-aware moment in the book that I found very funny. So the Winnebago, the RV, pulls up, and they're like, okay, Coburn, you go into the Walmart and start killing the cannibals to distract so that the guards will turn all of their attention on you. And then we will be able to drive past Cannibal Nation while the guards are distracted trying to kill Coburn. And then you give us the signal and we'll come pick you up when all the guards are neutralized. So Coburn like sneaks in. They've got a moat around the Walmart, and the moat is full of zombies because the zombies are very stupid, so they just walk and fall into it. But Coburn is the coolest guy in the world, so he can jump over the moat.
That is pretty cool.
And he sneaks in the back and he kills one of the guards who both shits his pants and starts firing the gun as he's dying. So that alerts everybody else in the building, and they're all coming after Coburn now.
Cool, okay.
And there's like a very self-aware, funny moment where Coburn is like thinking about the Walmart and he's like, hey, zombies walking to the Walmart, that's a lot like people going to the Walmart, because what is a zombie if not a consumer? And then it's like Coburn felt very smart for noticing this, and then in parentheses afterwards it's like he had not seen very many zombie movies.
That's good. I like
love
that joke.
That's very fun. That's charming. Whenever Chuck Wendig is like he's self-aware of like some of the cringier aspects of his writing. He's self-aware about it so that sometimes when he's self-aware, it becomes charming again. But then other times, it's like, okay, Chuck, can we dial it back a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, that was, the, like, hanging a lampshade was the style du jour of the time.
And there's another moment that made me laugh a little bit when, like, he no-sells, like, one of the cannibals that, like, shoots him dead on, like, straight in the body, and he just, like, walks it off. And she's like, what are you? And he goes, I'm Batman. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. And then breaks her neck.
So he literally did the Michael Morbius, like, I'm Venom? I'm just shocked that any part of this resembles, that I had to remember Morbius in hearing about this.
And that one guy, he pooped his pants.
He pooped his pants? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then he gets into this huge fight with all these cannibals. They end up, like, shooting both of his legs off.
Not again! He's gotta crawl again.
They are like, yes, interlopers will be brought to Ambrosia, the cannibal queen. And
sick. Oh no! Oh no!
The cannibal queen.
Oh no.
She's a very fat lady.
Yeah, kinda saw that coming at this point.
Because fat people shop at Walmart, Gus. They shop at Walmart because being fat and shopping at Walmart. Moral failing.
Is her throne like one of those mobility scooters? Is that?
No. Thankfully, it's not. Her throne is like made up of like stock crates, but Chuck has to remind us, like, and he's like, and it was made of so many stock crates. Like, you wouldn't believe how many stock crates it took to support the weight of this fat woman.
Because she's big mama, big Walmart queen. Because what? Like, eating people makes you fat, I guess.
The thing that annoys me about Ambrosia the Cannibal Queen is, like, if Chuck Wendig stopped being so classist and fatphobic and weird about women, there's a good villain buried in here. Because she's like, you get a little bit of her internal monologue, and she tells Coburn, like, Coburn, because he's an asshole, is like, how the fuck are you this fat? And she tells him it's because she eats people. But in her internal monologue, she was fat before the zombie apocalypse started, and she's actually lost some weight since then. But she obviously tells people that she's fat because she's a cannibal as an intimidation tactic. That's almost something. And also, she's surrounded by, like, flat screen TVs that have, like, portraits of her painted onto the screens.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's something. And she's like, she reminds me of, like, one of the ogres from Baldur's Gate 3, the one that's, like, very erudite, because she'll be like, no, I detest the word raw. We call it sashimi here because we're cultured. She has a little bit of, like, a, like, trying to seem smarter than she is, trying to portray herself as a benevolent ruler, even though she's, like, a monstrous cannibal. But, like, it's marred by all the times that Chuck is like, and she had, like, a fat voice, it sounded like she was gargling pudding, and her boobs were so sweaty, and she was gross. And it's like, shut up, Chuck. Shut up. You almost had a good character, but then you had to be like, she hefted fatly.
Yeah, this is like, points for style, but it's also one of those things where it's like, not only is the description totally, like, egregious, the Coburn has to, like, go up to every single fat person in the apocalypse and be like, how you even fat, though? Like, every single time. And it's like, dude, after you've seen, like, 5, aren't you like, maybe I gotta reassess my data internally?
Like I said before, some people just have slow metabolisms.
And also, it's like the author is, like, if the author is trying to say, like, it's unrealistic, why is he putting in so many fat people?
Because Walmart! Because America! Something. High fructose corn syrup and etc.
Oh my god. It's so... Yeah, anyway. Do they begin their Dark Souls battle now? Do they fight?
Ambrosia the Cannibal Queen is like, I tire of this nonsense. Take him up to the roof where he will be cooked. And he's brought up to the roof where the cook of the cannibal clan. So the cannibals, they have this, like, they've turned the Walmart basically into a meat processing plant.
Oh, naturally, because they definitely do nothing else but, like, turn people into food.
Yeah, they do nothing else but be cannibals. It's like, they sell seeds at Walmart. You could grow a fucking tomato.
Well, like, these fucking dumb cannibals are probably planting guns in the ground to try and get more bullets.
So they take him up to the roof to be cooked by the cook who is just only ever referred to as cook, who is a meth cook who now cooks cannibal meat.
That's awesome. Meth is so funny.
And there's 2 other people in cages on the roof. One of them is a guy that Chuck refers to as Charles Manson-esque. And then another guy who is a lanky, older teen, young adult with red hair who I kept picturing as Bellamy from KILLJAM. And Coburn is bleeding out from his legs, which have been chopped off, so he is at low power. Losing blood doesn't kill him, but it does put him in a low power mode because he derives all of his power from his blood. And the sun is coming up, so he starts getting sizzled. And then, what happens? He has like a big fight. There's like something happens on the roof, which is actually quite clever. He starts talking like he's got something in his mouth, and he starts being like, oh, I got the key in my mouth. Put your face up to, because they've all got their hands tied. Put your face up to the bars of the cage, and I'll spit the key into your mouth. And he does that as a way so that he can bite the guy on the tongue,
yeah, no,
get a little
that
bit of blood,
makes sense.
get a little bit of his strength back. I thought that was really smart. But something goes wrong. The guards start shooting, and there's like a propane tank up there that explodes, and everything gets fucked up to shit, and Coburn is like burnt by the sun, and he's brought back down to Ambrosia. And like, sometimes Chuck is really good at writing fight scenes. Sometimes I have a hard time telling what's going on, because he loves to do like sentence fragments, like he loves to just like drop words from sentences.
Interesting. And so this probably leaves much to be desired.
Sometimes that helps the speed of the story, and sometimes it's really irritating and it makes it hard to follow what's going on, because he likes to do a mix of kind of like big words and like strange metaphors, but like in a kind of clipped way. And it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Like, it'll be like, and there was blood, so much blood, black, cracking, big guns going off. Like, it's just like a list of things that are happening. It's like, okay,
And also this fight scene, like, seemingly is inconsequential because it just puts him back to square one. Like, he's back in front of the Cannibal Queen again. Yeah, Ambrosia.
So Ambrosia starts, okay, and I thought he was gonna do something cool here, but of course he can't, because Chuck Wendig does not want to write Ambrosia more. Because Ambrosia starts like, because he's all grilled up by the sun. So she's like, delicious barbecue. She starts like eating him with a knife and fork, like cutting pieces off of him and eating him. And I was like, oh, is she gonna turn into a vampire now? But of course not. Well, I guess he's like, I don't want to have 2 women that are as powerful as Coburn, because that's unrealistic. I can't have the Hausfrau and Ambrosia. I think those 2 bad bitches should have teamed up.
Nothing about this is realistic. We got 2 years and then Cannibal Kingdom, and they don't even know how to plant food anymore, and they ran out of canned beans.
In a very, like, idiot ball
Dumb.
way, Ambrosia is like, I'm gonna eat this guy's tongue right out of his head. And as she's doing it, she's thinking, this was a bad idea. You need to slow cook tongue meat. It's very tough and doesn't have a lot of fat on it. Girl, why are you doing it?
What? Yeah, what is the point of this?
But I'll tell you why she's doing it.
So that she can get bit.
So she can get bit. Exactly. And
Yeah.
what Coburn does is she, out of shock, like, drops him. And he lands on her big,
Nice.
fat,
Sick.
gross, sweaty boobs.
Cool.
And then he chews through her chest to eat her heart. And then he explodes back out of her like a fucking alien from the movie Alien.
Fatality. You did it, Coburn.
And his legs are back. His legs are back, but his shoes are gone. He does not have his fluvox anymore. He will be barefoot for the rest of the book. And he complains a lot about his feet being sore. And there's like a running joke where like every time he runs into somebody with shoes, he's like, "What? Those are good shoes." Nah, probably not my size. You know, like, once again, like, sometimes I like Coburn and sometimes he's irritating, but like every once in a while it's like, damn.
So that was nasty and gross. How far is Cannibal Kingdom? Like, how much terrain did they cover going through it?
Well, it's unclear. It's unclear,
right.
but they're out of Cannibal Kingdom now because what happened was there was the explosion on the roof. There was and Coburn goes back to set Bellamy free. This kid that he starts calling Ginger, who cannot speak for like medical reasons.
Okay, yeah. Fly, be free, be a manager.
Yeah, go, be free. Yeah, if the cannibals had cut his arm off, then I'd be like, oh, that really
exactly.
is Bellamy. But that didn't happen. But the thing about this kid is, and also, once again, smacked in the face by the 2011 of it all, in Coburn's internal monologue, he wonders if the kid is Arslar.
That's cool. I love it. Wow.
Well, at least because you never see that word again in this book, so that is just Coburn being politically incorrect.
Yeah, and I guess he was applying it in a, like, what he thought was like a medically accurate.
Yeah, because that was a medical term back when he was alive. I'm giving him too much benefit of the doubt, but also, like, this was his first book. I feel the need to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though Chuck Wendig has threatened legal action for, like, or otherwise beefed with three people that I know, which is weird. If I had 10 cents for every time Chuck Wendig beefed with someone I knew, I would have 30 cents.
I think it's a huge plot hole that Coburn, considering that, like, his memory starts in the 1950s and he's kind of a shitty dude, isn't more racist.
Yeah, like because it would be a bummer. It's the same thing that I run into when I'm writing the Kingmaker histories, which is set in the 1910s, where one of my main characters is South Asian and another one of my main characters is gay. Sometimes I have the thought, like, oh, the villain characters in this would be, and honestly, all of the characters in this would be way more racist and homophobic in real life. But that's a bummer, so I'm not going to put it in.
Yeah, and I guess Chuck Wendig is holding himself to
Chuck is
some tasteful standards in his own work.
Yes, but he still says things like some club slut and, like, you know, Little Miss Lipstick. And
So you go back to the club.
you go back to the club. So the sun's coming up. There's a big explosion, and Gil is like, okay, fuck this. Coburn is maybe dead right now, but also I hate that guy. We have to go. And Abner is like, are you sure? Are you sure we're gonna be able to go? And he's like, yeah, well, that has bought us the time that we needed, so just gun it, go through the barrier. And Abner is like, all right. And even though Abner and Kayla are like, we gotta wait for Coburn, and the dog is with them, and the dog is like crying because Coburn's not there and they're driving away without Coburn.
Aww.
Gil is like, I made up my mind. So they drive away, and Coburn realizes that they've driven away, and he's like talking to Ginger / you find out later that this kid's name is Danny because he writes it down on a piece of paper, but Coburn only ever calls him Ginger. So he's like talking to Ginger. He's like, Ginger, I'm gonna be so honest with you. I'm having a shit of a day. I'm super fucked off. Like, they took my dog, dude. Can you drive? And Ginger nods, and he's like, cool, we are going to go get revenge right now. You gotta drive me, and I'll tell you where to drive, because because it's a diesel engine, he can smell the specific feel that they're burning. So he's like, we're gonna follow them.
Sweet. Okay.
And I'm gonna fucking kill them for leaving me.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that Coburn is getting revenge on the sympathetic characters that totally aren't like the focus of the book at this point.
They drive after the RV, and then they find that the RV has been overturned.
It's the Hausfrau again. Oh no.
No. Oh, the Hausfrau. No, the thing is, the Hausfrau, like, as soon as they leave the Walmart, the Hausfrau comes to the Walmart and, like, slaughters everybody else in the Walmart.
Now I'm just imagining the Hausfrau as that, like, Interpol officer from Madagascar 3. Just, like, busting through walls and, like...
Yeah,
like, superhumanly powerful.
I can't believe I've seen Madagascar 3. What's wrong with me?
I can't believe it's, like, real, like, that it's a real movie, you know? Just that, like, it exists and it's in the world.
Coburn has, like, a big tantrum. He has a big tantrum because the RV's been overturned, and it's like, well, fuck, now I don't know where they are. He yells at Ginger and tells him to fuck off, and then when he doesn't fuck off, he, like, kicks him in the stomach, and then Ginger's like, all right, fine, non-verbally, with his eyebrows, because he can't talk. And he gets on his dirt bike and he starts driving away. And then Coburn goes into the RV to sleep for the day. And then when he wakes up in the night, Ginger's back, and he's sitting on top of the RV and waving to him. And Coburn's like, this fucking kid.
So, okay, so narratively, this is just the dog again, but it's a mute kid.
Yeah, it's basically Ginger / Danny is the new version of the dog. And he does not contribute a lot to the soup. So he, in his day sleep, he has a dream where Kayla is showing him where they are. They're in an old farmhouse that's surrounded by zombies. And he is like, well, fine, fuck them. But then he's like, he gets a pang of guilt. And there's a big, like, look, what is this feeling? You know, where he's like, oh no, guilt. I am evil and I am unfamiliar with this feeling of guilt. And in these dreams, there's more details of, like, he sees, like, a dead little girl who looks a lot like Kayla. I had a lot of theories about this. I want to see what your theories are.
So here's the thing, I figured this was already part of, like, okay, so it's his past life as a human, but it's also his psychic link with her. Is she related to him distantly through and
I thought that too.
Yeah, because I can't make heads or tails of this. I think it's like, it's thematically muddled is what it is. So it's like both pieces of information we have are like directly at odds with each other.
So Kayla and Lily and Gil and the dog, and Lily's been bitten. And so she's had enough of Kayla's blood to not turn, but her ankle is still ripped because it got bitten. So she can't walk.
That's bad.
And so Kayla, Lily, Gil, the dog, Abner, and Cecilia they're all trapped in a farmhouse, just like Night of the Living Dead. Did you know that Chuck Wendig has seen films?
Oh,
because he
wow.
has.
I love when zombie fiction is just like other zombie fiction.
It's so funny that it's like, he clearly has seen a lot of horror movies because he references Night of the Living Dead. He, I'm pretty sure the phrase Dead by Dawn shows up, so he's seen Evil Dead. There's a later scene where, like, some people in a drive-in movie theater are watching zombie flesh eaters. He's seen horror movies, and yet, in his horror writing advice, his brain went to When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah, it's so true. But here's the thing too, is that, like, it feels like his reflection of that is, like, it's so tropey to the point of being, like, redundant. Like, I get, like, having favorite tropes and wanting to, like, use them as the centerpiece in the story, but you don't have to do, like, a whirlwind tour of every single major trope from, like, a zombie or apocalypse thing. It doesn't have to be like that, you know? Like, pick one or two. You could get a whole second book out of the other ones that you think are, like, your favorites.
Well, maybe that's what the second book is. Who knows? So Coburn he uses his vampiric strength to write the RV so that Danny can drive it. Because Danny can basically drive anything. Because he's a farm boy. So he learned how to drive. He can drive manual. So he's the most powerful being alive. Because I know I sure as fuck can't drive
Stick
manual.
shift king over here.
Yeah. So Coburn, they load the bike into the RV and they're driving around, and Coburn, like, puts together this kind of rig where he's got a match, some duct tape, a big machete, and some cloth. He basically turns the engine of the motorbike into a Molotov cocktail, duct tapes the accelerator down, and pushes the motorcycle down the hill so that the fire, like, draws the zombies away from the house.
All right. That's pretty good.
And so then he bursts in, swinging his machete, kills a bunch of zombies, and meanwhile, Danny is driving around the back to where it's safe so that the whole party can reassemble in the RV. And the thing about this RV, I found it interesting that this book actually acknowledges the fact that petrol goes bad.
Yeah, within 2 years. Like, how long does it take?
Yeah, I don't think it takes that long for petrol to, like, evaporate if it's not stored properly. So that's why it's very specific that the RV is the only vehicle that they could use, because it has to be big enough to hold all of them. There's like 6 people in the party and one of them's fat. And it also has to run on diesel because diesel doesn't go bad. At least it doesn't go bad as quickly as petrol does. I like when like post-apocalyptic fiction goes into the sort of like little minutia like that. So it's very strange that it does that sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is that, like, you know, on the one hand, this is a story of like vampires versus zombies and cannibal queens and fucking like blood that can cure zombie and psychic visions. And then on the other one, it's like, did you know that diesel actually keeps longer than other types of fuel, which means that it could survive? And did you know that, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you like, just know what you need for your tone. Like, just because you know the Wikipedia fact doesn't mean it needs to go in the story.
Yeah, but it just adds an interesting. And actually, I was gonna say it adds an interesting wrinkle because that means they can't stop at every petrol station, but it's like, that's kind of just glossed over by the narrative. There's no, like, oh, the van's almost running out and we gotta go to a petrol station that is diesel.
That's what I mean. It's like, it feels like it's all these little details, like, don't matter as much as, like, the stuff the story is really about. So it's like, why have them?
Yeah. So in the fight through, when he's hacking through the zombies to get to the farmhouse to save everybody, a couple of zombies bite him. So now we have more mega zombies forming. And meanwhile, in a previous chapter, I forgot to mention this, but there are now 4 of the mega zombies because there are the 3 that bit Coburn, who are Hausfrau, Rainslick, and a female zombie who is wearing a house dress with her tits out.
Sick. I feel like I keep saying, like, nice and sick, but, like, that's genuinely the feeling I get from this, where it's like, all of this stuff is just so, like maybe this will, like, bring out the inner 13-year-old boy in every reader.
And the 4th mega zombie, they're referred to as hunters later in the book. Maybe I should just call them that, but in my notes I call them mega zombies.
The mega zombies. The mega
but later
beasts.
they get referred to as hunt.
Yeah.
So Hausfrau has now evolved. Like, she's thrown off her curlers and her daggy bathrobe, and now she is the bitch beast.
Sweet. Like, what am I supposed to take from all of this? It's just so, like, juvenile.
Yeah, the one with her tits out, like, one of her tits has been ripped off, so it's Rainslick, Ruptured Tit, and Bitch Beast. Chuck Wendig, please be normal about women.
Not only is that metal, but it gets some of that cool asymmetry, which, as we know, is the coolest thing you can add to a character design.
I think what he was trying to do was the thing of, like, the
Cenobites from Hellraiser? And make them a little distorted and weird?
Yeah. The naming thing is a little bit like Hellraiser, but also, like, there's the country, I think it's in Dahomey, which is now called Benin. There's, like, a female warrior force, and I think it was them that would, like, cut one of their breasts off so that, like...
Oh, like the mythical Amazons.
Yeah, the Amazons would do this. Like, it's like a thing that female warriors would do in the olden times. They'd cut one boob off so that their arrow quiver would lay more flat.
Yeah, but, like, I doubt that Rupture Tit is an archer, so what's the...
No, she's not. She has a hatchet. It's like, Chuck, you should have made her... If she was an archer, that'd be sick as hell. But, like, otherwise it just feels like you're being weird about women and their tits.
Like, it feels like he was doodling this in a notebook. It's like, what if, I kind of drew her tit wrong. Oh, okay, what if it was fucked up from the beginning? Yeah, and her name's Rupture Tit. She's fucking gross.
Yeah, and the third one, the fourth one is called Park Ranger, and that is the one that, Bitch Beast, like, vomited vampire blood into his mouth like a baby bird to enlighten him and turn him into another hunter. So there's 4 hunters now, and they are chasing the RV. And there's, so for several days, they're like going and stopping and making camp in different places. And every once in a while, they can just hear these horrible screeches and howls carried on the wind. And they're like, oh shit, we gotta go. That keeps going. And the hunters are getting smarter. They're learning how to strategize. They're learning how to use tools. They also learn how to command hordes of the regular zombies.
Oh, sick. Okay, so these are like the special titans that are commanding the rest of the. Okay, cool. You know what? I like as much as so much of this is so haphazard and weird. The mega zombies are at least like they feel like we're building towards some kind of interesting confrontation with them.
And we are. They are the best part of the book. That is the most interesting thing that Chuck Wendig brought into his like vampire zombie lore.
Sometimes you just gotta have like 4 or 5 monsters to make things better.
Yes. So the RV breaks down. They can't get it to start even though it's got a full tank. So they have to walk, which is a daunting task because one of them has cancer and another one has a busted ankle, and you must not forget that Abner is very fat.
So what if they just had Coburn run them back and forth like the Flash because he's super fast, like if he just spider monkeyed them all, except for Abner because he is supernaturally fat to the extent that a vampire couldn't lift him probably in Chuck Wendig's world.
Yeah, Coburn is at certain points, he's like, yeah, I'm not carrying you, you fat fuck.
What a weak fucking vampire.
Well, he's just being mean. Okay, he can lift an RV. He could definitely lift Abner, but he doesn't want to because he's mean.
I do feel like Abner is like supernaturally dense because like it's like, yeah, fat people are heavier than like God in Chuck Wendig's world.
Yeah, in the Chuck Wendig world. So they're walking and they get to this town that is completely abandoned and like everything has been stripped for parts. They see a lot of graffiti around that is like 66 states. That says 66 states. And they see a sign that says Thuglo ain't your bitch. And they see all of these like symbols like drawn on things, like a crown symbol drawn on things. And everything has been completely stripped. There's no furniture, there's no food, there's no copper wiring, there's no petrol, there's no anything. All there is in this town is a pile of hacked up zombies.
Okay, all right. New side quest just dropped. Let's find out the mystery in this fucking episodic chapter of this whole thing.
They're walking around and they see so many of these signs and they start to think like, oh, have the followers of man been here? But all of the graffiti is like very like puerile, like your mom gay kind of stuff. And like, welcome to the 66 states, wipe your dick.
This feels like Chuck Wendig like did the whole cannibal arc and was like, oh shit, I kind of blew all my world building ideas just there. I know, I'll introduce a bunch of new world building concepts to make sure this book can go longer.
Yeah, pretty much. And so he's looking around and they're like, well, do you think that this is the Sons of Man have like extended their empire further south than we thought? And Coburn's like, no. He's looking at a sign that says down with the clown. And he says, no, the Sons of Man are stupid, but they're not this stupid. Gus, the 66 states is a juggalo faction.
Shut up. What is this? Chuck Wendig, what are we doing? Was this this was pre-Homestuck, right?
Yes, definitely. 2011 is... No, it's concurrent with Homestuck, because I think Homestuck was popular when I was in high school, and I graduated in 2011, so yeah. So it was like at the same time as Homestuck.
But that's the thing, it's like Homestuck is like so internet culture pilled that like Juggalo references make sense there. With this, it just seems like so improbable that the Juggalos would like take over a part of like America in 2 years. Like the Juggalos were like they commanded a territory in the same way that a cannibal kingdom. What is going on? What happened?
Because Chuck wanted to make fun of Juggalos.
Dude, like, this feels so strongly like he got bored of writing the book at this point, and he's like, Juggalo arc, Juggalo time.
Yeah, so, like, they go to the big wall, and so, like, all of the stuff that has been stolen, all of the, like, broken down cars, all of the sheet metal, every bit of building material that wasn't strapped down to the ground has been repurposed to build a wall around the territory of the 66 states. And they get to the wall, and a guy called Lieutenant Necro Loco comes out and points a gun at them, and he's like driving around in this Humvee, and he's like, "Nah, you gotta get in the car, you're going to see the king." So the Juggalos have a Juggalo king, and he's called King Brother Thuglo. And if you will recall from earlier, Thuglo ain't your bitch. And I just kept thinking, this is just if the kings from Fallout New Vegas were stupid.
This is like if Fallout New Vegas and Saints Row had like an inexplicable like baby that was hit with a hammer.
Yeah, because the thing with the kings from Fallout New Vegas is they are like a faction with a king who are like their entire culture is themed around Elvis music, but that makes sense because that game is set in Las Vegas, where there are so many like Elvis themed things that if you came out of a vault in the ground and looked around, you were like, oh, you would probably be like, oh, this was their god.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a place in America where they have like big statues of Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, or like where they have like a Juggalo themed casino.
Yeah, like I don't know that like being a Juggalo persists to the point that like they would all converge on one spot in the zombie apocalypse and like set up like a community and crown a king and have it all be based on being fans of a band. It's weird. I don't.
So they go to see the king, and the king's castle, the Juggalo castle, has been
so stupid.
Is hooked up to a generator, and it's like the first place with electricity that we've seen. Because this used to be an Air Force base.
Fucking magnets, how do they work? This has gotten, like, stupider as it's gone on. Like, this has actively gotten dumber as Chuck Wendig has continued to write it.
So Brother Thuglo is, like, at first he's really chill. He's like, man, you want some weed? You know, he's smoking a bong, and he's like, damn, life is a lot like pinball. And, you know, there's a part where in like a section that is from Kayla's point of view, it's like, if Kayla had been old enough to know what bong water smelled like, she would say that the place smelled like bong water. And I found that fun.
Yeah, that's something.
Multiple characters describe the 66 states as like a big crazy frat party. So then Brother Thuglo is like, nah, you can't get through here. We don't let people out. You are citizens of the 66 states and we're going to assign you your jobs. Old dude, you're going to be a mechanic. Black lady, you have medical training. You're going to be one of our doctors. Fat man, you're big. You look strong. We're going to send you to go to the cage fight for our amusement, and you're going to become a gladiator. And the two women, you're going to be part of my harem now.
Wow, I like that the Juggalos are both like they're both trying to be like ancient Rome, but they're trying to also be like Soviet Russia. Like it's weird that this would be like their default society. Like what is this supposed to say about actual Juggalos? I don't think anything, really.
And I don't remember where Danny is. Danny is such a non-character. It might just be because Chuck Wendig loves to write dialogue. So the one character who does not have dialogue, you forget he's there all the time.
Danny needs to get patched back into the story.
He needs to get patched back into the story for real. As soon as King Thuglo is like, I'm adding Kayla to my harem, Gil beans him over the head with the bong, and because, you know, that's his 15-year-old daughter you're talking about, sir. So then Gil is sentenced to death, and they send him to the motel, which has become their, like, prison, and he's being guarded by a guy called Dope Fiend, who is, like, big and buff and roided up. And there's a bit later where Brother Thuglo is sulking, and there's like one of his like juggalette harem is picking the bong glass out of his white boy dreads, and he's talking to her about like how hard it is to like run a settlement in the post-apocalypse. And at one point he goes, it's hard out here for a pimp. That just made me laugh. Of just like, it was like, it's hard out here for a pimp, Thuglo lamented. I'll put the screen cap. I'll send you the screen cap.
That's
put it
good.
up on screen. It's really funny.
I like.
There is, and off in the distance, one of the Juggalo sentries sees that the four hunters and their army of zombies are coming down the road. So that's about to happen.
Oh, the main plot's coming over the hill.
Yeah. But meanwhile, Coburn shows up in Brother Thuglow's castle, and he's like, yo, you took my dog. And the way that it was, while this is happening, like, the Juggalette is, like, kissing the back of Thuglow's neck, and my brain kind of, like, shorted out a little bit and read the words in the wrong order for a second. So I thought what this scene was that Coburn, like, kills the Juggalette silently somehow, and then he is kissing the back of Thuglow's neck, and he's like, by the way, you son of a bitch, you stole my dog, and then he's gonna bite him. I thought that's what was gonna happen. That would have been great.
Okay, yeah. That would have been a strange move for Coburn, but it would have been interesting.
It would, I mean, what vampires would be straight? None of them.
A vampire written by Chuck Wendig has a fucking shot in hell.
Oh, you're so right. So it just becomes a normal confrontation. Coburn hypnotizes. Oh, he can hypnotize people. He doesn't use that power very often because it takes a lot of his blood energy, and he's constantly getting fucked up.
It takes a lot of brain power for Chuck Wendig to remember that he can do that, so he doesn't use it that often.
Yeah. Does this book have an editor?
Goddamn.
So he hypnotizes the Juggalette to walk away, and he's like, yo, to Brother Thuglow, he's like, you have to tell me where my pals are. Well, he doesn't call them his pals. He calls them his cattle.
Oh, fun. I love that.
So they're his sheeple sometimes, too.
Oh.
So he's like, oh yeah, Gil's in the hotel, and then all the people are in these other places. But then, so the hunters are bearing down on them, but also from the other direction, the Sons of Man are here because they have been trying to annex the 66 states for a while now, because the 66 states have jet fuel because it's an Air Force base, and they have helicopters and planes and stuff.
This is all building to some big climactic thing. Like, the Sons of Men are here, the Hunters are here, Coburn's here.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me that this book's climax is in the Juggalo City State.
It isn't. It is not.
Okay, alright. Thank goodness. Because this feels like it cannot possibly be the resolution to the story.
But we're getting close to the resolution. So all hell breaks loose. The Hunters are fucking things up. The Sons of Man are shooting, and they're like, well, let's see what the Hunters do, because the Hunters might kill all the Juggalos for us.
What a fucking brand new sentence.
And so Coburn gets the group together, except for Gil. Gil's off going on his own because Gil's got a gun and he's managed to escape. He like garrots Steroid Man with the cord of a lamp and manages to escape. He steals a gun. He shoots Steroid Man, and he's gone to look for the rest of the party. So Coburn is saving the rest of the party from the hunters, and so him and Bitch Beast get into this huge fight in an airline hangar. And Gil shows up. He manages to land one hit with his gun on Bitch Beast, but it doesn't phase her for long. And Coburn gets the upper hand, and he's like pummeling her into the ground. He's like, oh, I'll fend her off. You guys go. Because Brother Thuglow is like, I have a helicopter. I know how to fly the helicopter. Because despite being a stoner, he was in the Air Force. He knows how to fly a helicopter.
What is this man's backstory? What is his life?
I feel like they wouldn't let a Juggalo do that. Like, they barely let gay people into the army.
And also, like, why would it be this Juggalo? Like, the Juggalo who runs a country based on him being a Juggalo and is, like, a stoner who, like, keeps a harem and everything? Like, what is this?
So he's like, everybody come with me. We're gonna go to the helicopter and refuel it. So he starts refueling the helicopter. And meanwhile, Coburn is he turns the tide on the fight, and he manages to pummel Bitch Beast into the ground. But then the other three hunters show up, and they start ripping Coburn apart. They're like biting him, they're eating him, they're drinking his blood. They're all getting stronger. And then, but while the helicopter is refueling, Lily is like, well, with my leg, I'm not gonna make it, so I'm gonna do the heroic sacrifice. Because she trusts that Coburn is the only guy that can get Kayla to the West Coast. So she takes 2 grenades, and she goes back to the hangar where Coburn is fighting the hunters. And she throws one of the grenades to distract them and draw them towards her. And when they are all, like, bearing down on top of her, she pulls the pin on the second grenade and suicide bombs them.
Okay. All right. So that's a wrap on Lily. Yeah.
That's a wrap on Laylee. She barely was a character. Thank you, Chuck.
And that's the first party member death, too, right?
Yeah, that is the first party member death. Danny is also here. I always forget he's a character in this book.
I imagine so does Chuck.
And he and Kayla have a relationship with each other. They're like sweet on each other, but it's kind of like, you know, just kind of like, throw it in there.
Yeah, you know, why not?
Throw it in there. Whatever. They're teenagers. So they get into the helicopter. It takes off just as the Sons of Man are coming in. Coburn looks out of the helicopter. He sees Benjamin Brickert and he flips Benjamin Brickert off from the helicopter. And Benjamin Brickert is like, it's my enemy, Coburn. And so he takes a gun and he shoots at the helicopter and it manages to puncture the fuel tank. So they're leaking fuel, but they can still fly. And they manage to get out over the desert.
I also assume a dust cloud clears and the hunters are revealed to be alive.
Bitch Beast is alive. The other 3 got exploded.
Damn, by one grenade. Okay.
Yeah, eats the exploded pieces of the other 3 to regain her strength. And then she starts feeding it. She starts feeding it to the other zombies. So we've got a whole mess of hunters being created now.
Wow, I just love when like the most like threatening character in the entire work of fiction is called Bitch Beast. That makes me feel like really like I'm being respected as a reader.
That is Chuck for you. Anyway, so Coburn has another dream while he's like wrapped up in blankets as the sun is coming up. The image of him in a helicopter just like covered in blankets is really funny.
Sitting in a helicopter full of body trauma, hoping God that I never have to find out.
Hoping I'd never see another bitch beast. So he has another dream, but this time it's the clearest one ever, where we get his full backstory, that while he was a human, a mysterious blonde man killed his daughter and turned him into a vampire. But then, in the dream, the mysterious blonde man is like, is that how you remember it happening? That's not how it happened. And what actually happened is that the mysterious blonde man turned him into a vampire, and the first person he killed as a vampire was his own daughter. So that explains the guilt.
Okay.
The Kayla guilt. It's very Joel from The Last of Us. Like, I couldn't save Rebecca because I killed her, but I can save Kayla.
It's wild because there was already a Joel, and now retroactively Shadow the Hedgehog is a second Joel.
And his first name is John, by the way. He'd forgotten about that. He'd forgotten his first name.
Oh, wow. Oh, and wait a minute, because Shadow the Hedgehog also has, like, a little girl who died, and that's, like, his whole guilt thing. So it really is, like, an Ouroboros of edgy man pain little girl death.
Yeah, literally.
Chuck Wendig, you're a hack. Then again, this was his first one, so yeah, maybe he's gotten better, but we don't even need to. Anyway.
I mean, the Book of Accidents was pretty well reviewed. I did see one review that I saw of it said that the writing is like too concerned with being clever, which is like, that's fair enough. I can see that in this writing too. And another person said that it was written like a thread of tweets, which I can also totally believe for Chuck.
The thing is, I think that Chuck Wendig definitely like is able to improve his writing through experience and has probably become capable of much better writing. The problem is that I think like he is a bad writer in spite of his skill because of just the tendencies of how he handles the subject matter of his stories.
And how he is so tempted to just be like to kind of show off his own cleverness rather than
Did I remind you that I'm the irreverent cool writer who makes you
Yeah, exactly. That is the word. By this point in the book I was here for it. It's like the number of like Juggalo jokes has gone. We're out of the Juggalo settlement. No more Juggalo jokes.
We did the Cannibal arc, the Juggalo arc, and now we're in whatever this is.
And now we're into the Sons of Man arc.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Because Coburn's had the absolute shit beaten out of him by the hunters. They've been biting and ripping and kicking fucking sex freedom baby. And he desperately needs blood, but he can't, not until they land, because he knows he would go blood crazy and crash the helicopter. So when he wakes up from his dream, guess what's happened? He's gone blood crazy and crashed the helicopter. All of the human characters are dead. And the dog.
I know you're not lying to me, but what the fuck?
Yeah. And Coburn is like, holy shit, no. I can't believe it. I can't believe I did this. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, no, I'm a monster.
I can't believe you didn't do this, Coburn. It was Chuck Wendig who did this.
Chuck Wendig did this. But it came up, somebody comes up behind him and tases him, and then he wakes up and he's in the Sons of Man compound in California, being tortured with a battery, like a car battery that's like clamped to him.
Why does Chuck Wendig think we're about to care about anything that happened? It was a helicopter full of shaggy dogs that, like, the entire story, there was like, oh, you gotta care about these fucking...
You know, have faith.
Yeah.
Benjamin Brickett tells him a story about how after he cut Coburn's middle finger off, he sent that middle finger to a phlebotomist, whatever you call a blood doctor. I think that's what a blood doctor is called. Or a pathologist. And that with the intention of using his cells to figure out what his weaknesses are and to learn more about vampires. And the scientist that Benjamin Brickett sent that finger to was patient 0 of the zombie apocalypse.
Oops. Fucking oops.
Coburn's blood mutated in the lab and became the zombie virus.
Yeah, okay, and that explains why the mega zombies got all big and buff when they got more of the juice. That does make a lot of sense. But again, you know, the cure to all of this just fucking died in a fucking helicopter accident, so it's like, who the fuck cares? The story's got no way to resolve itself.
Benjamin Brickett is like, you know, sometimes to fix something, you have to break it first. So thank you for creating the virus that broke America so we can rebuild it in our image.
Yeah, but like, he didn't do it. Coburn didn't do it, though. You did it. You fucking lose. Like, yeah. And he's like, oh, no, it's okay. This is totally the right way to do it. I'm Benjamin Brickert. I know what I'm doing.
And Coburn is realizing something while this is happening. He is realizing he's hooked up to this car battery and he's in a lot of pain. And he realizes that the wound, so the bitch beast, during the fight, the bitch beast, like, cut him open. Like, she stuck a claw in his stomach and pulled upward like a velociraptor. And Coburn, while he's being tortured and thinking about how much pain he's in, he realizes that that wound on his chest is still open, which makes him think, oh, wait, if I went blood crazy and killed everyone in the helicopter, that wound would have closed up, which means that going blood crazy and crashing the helicopter was part of the dream.
Which means he's still dreaming. So, wait.
No, he is actually in the compound. He is actually being tortured in the compound with a car battery, but he didn't actually kill everybody. He just dreamed that he was killing everybody.
He imagined himself getting tased, though.
No, he did actually get tased.
Oh, cool.
But what actually happened was that when they landed the helicopter, while Coburn was still asleep, the Sons of Man rounded everybody up into a truck and drove off.
Okay, so they're all alive. They're all alive.
And they tased him just as he was waking up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. You know what? Like, fair enough to undo the misdirect because, like, literally there's no way to continue the story if at least, like, Kayla is not still alive because ostensibly this is about curing the apocalypse.
So, Kayla and the rest of the gang, they are all being, like, marched up the stairs of this office building to a lab. And at this point, Coburn has realized this, but the rest of the party doesn't know this, that because Benjamin Brickert is like a weird prepper American evangelical Christian, he is actually so stoked that the world ended. He loves that for him. And so he is going to do everything in his power to stop the vaccine for zombieism from being made. And so Coburn is like, shit, they're gonna kill Kayla.
Okay.
They're gonna do anything in their power to stop her getting to the lab. So he's got to escape.
Coburn's got to, he's got to Last of Us this whole place.
Yeah.
Like The Last of Us.
Yeah. So, and, you know, it makes more sense to me than Joel in The Last of Us. I'll say that much.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like,
because it's kind of the opposite of what Joel does, what Coburn's about to do.
I mean, yeah, in a way, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they're marching everybody up to the lab, and Kayla starts, like, coughing blood. The cancer is very bad. It's catching up to her, and everybody's, like, limping. Everybody's, like, all shitted up, and obviously Abner is sweating, and he can't do it. He's too fat. So, one of Ben's goons shoots Abner in the head, because he's slowing the group down.
It's a miracle he lasted this long, honestly.
So, meanwhile, back in the compound, compound. Coburn looks there's this like big scary biker called Redbone who's guarding him, and he looks at Redbone's shoes and he's like, damn, those shoes are about my size. Shoes. I've got an idea. So, and I'm not entirely sure of the geography of the scene, because originally I was picturing Coburn sitting in a chair, but I think he must have been lying on the ground, because he undoes Redbone's shoelace with his mouth as he's like walking by him. He like grabs the end of the shoelace with his mouth and pulls it so that the knot comes undone. And then Redbone like almost trips on his shoes, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta bend over and tie my shoe up. And while he's bending over to do his shoes up, Coburn like lurches forward, bites him on the neck.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I just don't know why they had him like laying on the ground like that.
It is amazing how many weird, bizarre ways that they can get people close to Coburn's mouth so they can do the classic vampire bite. Like, it's his, like, one signature move throughout this entire book. And, like, it's very, man, they kept finding ways to get them into the pool.
They get to the lab, and they bust the door down with dynamite, and Gil tries to stop him, but one of the goons, whose name is Ray Ray.
Oh, no!
Fun SpongeBob Boys joke.
Not Ray Ray!
Ray Ray of the famous Ray Ray Ray. So, Ray Ray blows up the door with dynamite and then shoots Gil, but Cecilia tries to, like, jump in front of Gil to stop him from getting shot, but she dies, and the bullet goes through her and clips Gil's shoulder.
Uh-huh.
So, the thing is, Cecilia doesn't really go through a character arc as much as Chuck just decides that she's gonna be slightly more nice now. It's very Weiss Schnee. It's very, I'll be nicer. And then she sacrifices herself for Gil.
It also just feels like her and Abner were there to be like the butt of jokes until all of a sudden we needed enough narrative tension that, you know, the important likable characters don't die, or at least the ones that Chuck Wendig like views as people. But then, like, you know, let's just kill Abner and let's just kill, you know, it's
So Gil
dumb.
Shoots Ray Ray and kills Ray Ray.
That's a wrap on Ray Ray, baby.
Yeah, that's a wrap on the Ray Ray Ray. So Kayla runs into the lab after Benjamin, and her Benjamin has this assistant called Shonda, who, once again, not really a character, so I haven't brought her up. She's just like a higher ranking goon. And they talk a fair bit about like how Shonda and Ben have this like deep bond that is like not romantic, not platonic, but just like the bond of soldiers who are brothers, you know? I just found that kind of funny, because they're like no hetero.
Right, okay.
So Kayla finds Ben and Shonda just killing all of the scientists in the lab. And they try to kill Kayla, but Kayla spits blood into Shonda's eyes, because she's been coughing up blood all this time. She spits blood into Shonda's eyes to blind her, and then stabs her with a lever opener, which I thought was sick as hell.
Yeah, alright, fair enough.
Just as Ben is about to kill Kayla, but Ben, like, takes Kayla, and when Coburn and Gil both bust in, Coburn's been following them, and he found them, and he busts in, and Danny's also here. We keep forgetting about Danny. Danny gets shot at some point in this confrontation, but I don't remember what the actual sequence of events are.
Well, I mean, Danny doesn't have object permanence, so he's kind of, yeah, he's probably dead or alive. He's Schrodinger's character.
Schrodinger's twink. So Coburn and Gil show up. Danny runs in, but Ben shoots him. I've written in my notes. Okay. Kayla screams. Then Coburn, Nothing Personnel Kids behind Ben and pulls his head off.
It's about time.
He is dead. Ben is dead.
It's about time he did something like that.
But just as they think they're out, they hear a banging and a screaming downstairs. The hunters have busted their way in. There are like dozens of them now.
Oh, right, yeah, because it's the Bitch Beast Army. Bitch Beast Nation rising up. Oh
and
my god.
In one of Coburn's dreams, he has when he's talking to the mysterious blonde man, he's like, if I ever find you, I'm gonna kill you. And the mysterious blonde man is like, but if you kill me, you kill everything that I created, including yourself. And that gives Coburn an idea. And he's like, Kayla, you have to shoot me. You have to shoot me in the head. And Kayla's like, why? And he goes, because if my blood made the hunters, if I die, they all die with me. Which is pretty classic vampire movie rules.
Yeah, okay, but also, sure. But wait.
Kayla?
All right. Okay, I'm going
Kayla
with
does
it.
shoot him.
I'm going with it.
Kayla does shoot him, and all of the hunters like fall down on the ground and like melt like the gremlins when the sunlight shines on them.
That is amazing that worked. That is like that. Like, but that means that if Coburn could have just been. Wait. Why the fuck is Benjamin von Benjamin fucking like, oh, get this finger so he could find out his weakness when you could shoot him in the fucking skull and never have any zombies or the vampire that you hate?
Because in Chuck Wendig's mind, probably, Benjamin Brickett is not a very rational person.
Oh god, this is such a like backstory exceptionalism where it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, this sets the plot into motion, but after the fact, yeah, so like, and that's the thing, it's good when you have coincidences like that set up a story, like, you know, to just like make sure it happens, but like when you're doing something way into the story that is a coincidence that like contradicts the backstory of like getting everything there, it's like, what? Then what? No. This is no.
So Gil and Kayla are like, man, that was crazy, but we gotta go to San Francisco because one of the scientists in the lab is still alive, and with her dying breath, she tells them that there's another lab on a boat in the San Francisco Bay.
I guess we gotta just keep Last of Us-ing.
Yeah, they gotta keep Last of Us-ing. But Gil, because Gil has been clipped in the shoulder, they're like, we need something like antibiotic because otherwise this wound's gonna go septic. And also Kayla is still dying of cancer. She's still coughing up blood. And Gil is like, we just gotta make it to San Francisco. And I'm gonna go look through the lab for some medicine. So he goes looking around, he finds a bottle of Tylenol, he turns back around, and Kayla has stabbed herself in the neck with another letter opener or scalpel or something, and she is pouring her blood into Coburn's mouth.
What is anything anymore? What is anything that these characters are doing?
This crazy gambit works because her blood is magical and special. And so Kayla allows Coburn to take all of her blood.
And then to doom humanity in the process?
No, but because now Coburn is the cure.
And so
because he has all of Kayla's blood.
But she's like fucking double dead, and he's...
It doesn't make sense. I know, it doesn't really make sense.
Oh, oh no. Oh no.
But just roll with it.
I'm rolling.
Just roll with it.
I'm rolling.
I'm
tucking in my limbs and rolling.
So here's what I'm gonna read you my notes directly as written. Gil is fucked off. He pushes Coburn out the window. Kayla's voice has replaced the voice of the thirst in Coburn's head. He heals immediately because Kayla was so special. The dog comes back. The sun comes up. Coburn is okay. Magic Kayla blood. He is the cure now.
Whoa. What I've done to face myself. Cut out what I've become. Like, so is this the end of the book, or?
This is the end of the book. It's Coburn and Gil on the road
with
their scrinkly little dog. Killing zombies and going to San Francisco.
What a hacky fucking...
And the adventure continues. To be continued in the book Bad Blood, released a year later.
Baby, now we've got Bad Blood.
Baby, now we got Bad Blood.
That was terrible.
The thing is, I had a really good time reading this book. At a point. The most frustrating thing about, and you all came here to be like, what, the man who wrote the Kick-Ass writer, what's he like as an actual writer? And I'll tell you, frustrating as hell, because it's like, you'll be enjoying yourself a lot, and then some Chuck bullshit will hit you, and you're like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, because it is one of those things where it's like, you know, you've got like vampires versus zombies as your main story thing, and then it's like, and then he confronted the Fats and the Juggalos, and he, like, there's magic
and the
blood.
Women who could touch you.
Yeah, it's like all of this is just so, like, and the way that, like, these characters just kind of existed to get killed off, but not in any particular way, and, like, all at the end of the story, like, why keep them around? Why not whittle down the gang throughout this whole thing? It just seems so, especially because, like, the Sons of Man faction seems like such a post-apocalyptic faction, and yet they like were around before because of the vampires, and then they just like kept
Yeah.
on doing their whole post-apocalyptic grift because like they accidentally the zombies.
All my humanity gone. Help me, sons of man. Anyway, that was Double Dead.
I feel I feel pretty double dead myself.
Chuck Wendig has another book that's out this year called Stairs in the Woods, which he assures everybody is not a ripoff of the creepypasta, but I haven't read it, so I can't comment. But I don't know. I am almost tempted to read it just to see how far he's come.
Yeah.
As a writer. Just to see if he's still doing the, like, cromulent, crustable kind of stuff. Oh, I never read to you. Right. I'm just gonna rapid fire now that I'm done summarizing the plot. I made a list in my book, in my notebook, of Chuckisms. Of my most classic Chuckisms that I noticed. We got a Gutty Works at one point. We got a scarecrow with dynamite up its ass. We got a horse with a dart up its ass. We got meth cranked tiger, meth addled puma.
That's basically the same thing twice.
Yeah, plexiglass. The word plexiglass showed up at one point, and I was like pumping my fists and
He
cheering.
loves it. He loves it so much.
He loves plexiglass. At some point, somebody says this city bus smells like a dead hobo. There was like fear my awesomeness at some point.
Ugh.
When he tries to hypnotize the dog and it doesn't work, he goes, "This little snarling cur resisted my mojo." And then there was, of course, Mule Kicked, Pregnant Moon, Rolling Around in Blood Like a Dog in Gopher Shit, Nutball Cannibal Cranked to the Gills on Horse Tranquilizers, Triple Chocolate No, Fuck That Right in the Ear. So many classic Chuckisms in this book. It's like, you know,
Wow.
You could play the Chuck drinking game with this book.
Yeah.
But it would get harder to read the longer you went on. But I cannot deny the fact that I finished this 440-page book. I finished it in 2 days. I never do that. I never finish a book in 2 days.
Fair. I mean, there must have been something like compelling you forward, but like,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just some of the concepts that he introduces are really interesting. When they're introduced sincerely and not as a like, oh, this says so much about society. Fat people shop at Walmart. Juggalos are annoying to me for some reason.
women with makeup who have sex.
Yeah, oh my god, women wear makeup. Fucked that old man. She is a whore.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where like this just sounds like it wouldn't be like fun to think about in retrospect, even if like prosaically it's like easy to digest.
Yeah. I would almost want to see a movie adaptation of this.
That would be fucking
You know what I mean?
crazy.
Like, I would almost want to see a movie adaptation of this where it's like, you give this book to another writer to adapt the screenplay and, like, make it sort of update the stuff that hasn't aged well.
Let's get Eric Kripke on the horn after he finishes The Boys.
Yeah. This is so... Yeah, it's so... It reminded me of Preacher at some points. It's very similar to Preacher.
Oh,
in some ways.
yeah.
It's also very similar to Twisted Metal.
Yeah, Twisted Metal would honestly be like, you know, this but like good on in an adaptation.
Fallout New Vegas, Twisted Metal, Preacher.
Well, that's the thing. This is just a like very like it is like a very boilerplate one of what it is, with some extra weird stuff thrown in, but like at such infrequency it seems that like it doesn't save the book from being overall kind of mediocre.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel the need to stress again, even though we keep learning here on We're Not Alive channel that, like, you can't, if you go up to bat for people that you don't know personally, you will be punished for it. But, so big asterisk, as far as I know, Chuck has evolved as a person since this book was written.
Yeah, you know, and that's the best we can hope for anyone.
That's Double Dead.
Yeah, if you have a Juggalo character to roll up and bring into the Vampirade the Masquerade, Vampirade the Maskpire.
Vampirade the Maskpire. Delicious Vampirade. That's what those hunters were drinking.
Oh man. So Chuck's book may have been double dead, but we are not alive, and we will.
We are double not alive.
I am double. We are not alive. We are not alive, and we will see you in the near future.